We're seeing more souls that are originally from other star systems incarnate on Earth at this time than we've ever seen previously in Earth's history. A lot of our true history on planet Earth has been hidden from us. I think we've gotten a very kind of bleached version of what our true history is. I've seen this for a while in the records that we're going to have actual alien contact where we are actually going to be contacted by beings and the government is not going to be able to hide it, that everybody's going to know about it. We're going to see the advent of new technologies, of Earth becoming part of the greater Galactic Federation. We're going to be propelled forward into this new age. There is no going back under the rock and sticking our heads back in the sand after that.
What is up? Welcome to another episode of Alternate Timelines. Today's guest is Debbie Solaris, who is a well-known galactic historian, Akashic Records reader, and extraterrestrial contactee. All of my conversations are special, but this one was truly unique. And I'm really grateful for the opportunity to sit down and speak with Deb. She's been on many different stages, spoken to many different groups of people, and has appeared on Gaia television multiple times. This conversation is fascinating. Debbie shares a little bit about our cosmic history. She talks about how she was contacted not once but twice by extraterrestrials and what that was all like. And she shares some insights about what the future of humanity might look like. This was such a good conversation, and I'm incredibly grateful and blessed to have had the opportunity to connect with Debbie. If you like this kind of content, I invite you to like, subscribe, leave a 5-star review wherever you're listening to your podcast. Every little bit goes a long way and helps me to continue to do this kind of work. So I'm incredibly grateful for that as well. Without any further ado, let's just get into it. Debbie, thanks so much for coming on. I've been really excited about this conversation and about speaking with you. I typically don't listen to a lot of lore about extraterrestrials and galactic history, simply for me personally, because there's so much noise out there, and there's seemingly more and more people who are talking about this topic. And over the weekend, I had some time and I listened to some of your content, and I was actually blown away by how much it resonated with me, and I guess I felt really activated by it. Like the things you were talking about and the way that you communicate is so grounded, and it feels like it comes from a really authentic place. So I'm really grateful for you coming on and being willing to share some of your knowledge and some of your experiences with us today.
Well, thank you for having me on, first of all, and I'm excited to be here as well. And I'm happy to answer any questions or have any kind of chats or conversations. So, but I appreciate your comments because there is a lot of, you're right, there is a lot of information out there, a lot of disinformation, and a lot of people say different things about, but I always think there's a good middle ground, and sometimes that's where you need to start, so thank you for saying that.
Yeah, and I guess maybe a good place to start the conversation is, why is it important to learn about our galactic history and about our distant past and how this situation came to be? I think just starting with that foundation, like, this is, there is something to this, and actually learning these things can provide a tangible benefit in our life, and we can use this information in a way that helps us to achieve what we want to achieve. So I'm curious as to your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I would say a lot of our true history on planet Earth has been hidden from us. I think we've gotten a very kind of bleached version of what our true history is. And so, if you don't know your history, you're doomed to repeat it. I really believe that. We've seen that over and over again with quite a few Earth civilizations. They didn't heed the warnings from the past, and then, they fell into the same traps as previous civilization. So we see this kind of rise and then this fall. And this is kind of like a repeated pattern here on Earth. And also, I would think somewhat, in certain star systems, I wouldn't say all of them, but we also see that in certain star systems within our galaxy. So So I feel like understanding our galactic history, where our genetics really came from, who we truly are as humanity, I think will go a long way into, I think, helping to expand consciousness here on Earth, and also helping, I think, the humans to become more and more empowered. I think, I feel like when you know basically who you are, where you came from, it's just very empowering. I see it over and over again with my Akashic clients. Just once they know, like, oh yeah, I'm attached to these star systems, it just really activates them and propels them forward. So that's why I'm so passionate about this work, because otherwise it's like, okay, what does, some war that happened in Orion a million years ago have to do with me here on Earth today? And there is a lot of correlations. The other reason why I'm so, I think, passionate about this work is because uh, repeatedly what I see with a lot of my clients, I still do Akashic readings. I don't do them as frequently as I used to, but I still do one-on-ones with some clients. And what I see repeatedly is that we're still repeating the same patterns even today. So I see this all the time within my clients' personal lives, within my own life, with everyone. And I think this is just part of the human experience. Like, we choose to have these lessons over and over and over again. So it's really beneficial when you're having an experience and you can say, like, oh wow, that's my Pleiadian heritage that's impacting that, or this is happening to me because I am a Pleiadian starseed. I'm just using Pleiadians as an example, but so I think it just gives a little bit more insight into what's going on, because otherwise we're taking stabs in the dark. It's just like, and sometimes I think, having a system where, or, understanding our star lineages and what are the personality traits that are associated with each of these lineages. Why are these people like this? Why are we, as star seeds, why do we have certain traits that are maybe different from other people or other star seeds? So I would say that is why it's important to know the history.
I think that's a great place to start because you can't change something that you're not aware of. And the fact that you're bringing awareness to maybe a pattern in your life or certain distinct characteristics that a person might have in their personality or how they behave, like when you can start to understand the roots and the origins of those patterns, then that gives you a greater ability to either change that pattern if it's not serving you, or to empower that pattern to bring you where you want to go.
Absolutely. And so, with me, I really feel that with a galactic Akashic reading. So I think a lot of people know, if people don't know what the Akashic records are, so the Akashic records are the energetic records of the universe. It's pretty much tracks everything that everything has ever done in our galaxy, in our universe. And the records have been accessed for thousands of years. So even, the Bible talks about the records. They refer to it as the Book of Life. So we've heard that term, the Book of Life, before. So the records is anybody can access the records. So it's not limited to just certain people. I think a lot of people think, like, oh, you got to have this special ability or this special, passcode to get into the records. No, you don't. Anybody can access it if they know the proper process to do so. But also, what I see with that is that a lot of us are also contributing to the record. So the records belongs to all of us. It's located in the highest dimensional realms. So all of us are continuously, as a collective, contributing to the Akashic records. And so we are also creating our own story as we go along. I started doing Akashic readings back in, I would say, 2014. That was when I first started getting, I would say, formal training. I think I was downloading the records even before then, but I didn't quite know what I was doing at the time. Um, but in 2014 was when I first started getting formal training, and I started realizing, like, wow, there's more records even beyond Earth. So I think a lot of Akashic readers, or at least the traditional Akashic readers, will limit themselves to just the Earth records because that's their frame of reference. That's what they know. But I'm one of the few Akashic readers that actually go beyond Earth records. So I'm looking at the records from quite a few star systems, throughout our galaxy. And the thing that I think, people might want to tune into is, her soul's really just from Earth. With the majority of us, I would say, especially in this particular timeline that we're in right now, so we're approaching the age of Aquarius. We're talking about, moving into the fifth dimension, or moving into the golden age, or whatever you want to call it. But during this time of history, more than any other time, I would say that we're seeing more souls that are originally from other star systems incarnate on Earth at this time than we've ever seen previously in Earth's history. And so there's a term for people like you and me, and others that are interested in this kind of thing, and we call ourselves starseeds. So a starseed basically is a person that's incarnated as an Earth human right now, but their soul is an ancient soul. It's originated from some other star system, or some other reality, or some other planet, or somewhere else, besides Earth. So we're going through this phase right now where a lot of star seeds are coming to Earth because they're trying to help with the ascension process. But because we are coming from these high dimensions and incarnating on a lower density planet, which is planet Earth, a lot of us have forgotten. We get so heavily conditioned and programmed here on Earth that we've forgotten that, oh, yeah, I did have past lives in Andromeda, or past lives in Arcturus, for instance. So it almost feels like we have to go through this journey of rediscovering who we are, truly are as a soul, like, who are we truly, rather than what Earth avatar have we taken on. So some of us might take on an Earth avatar, like the Earth personality, or what we do for a living. It seems like, especially in the Western world, a lot of us are defined by what we do for a living, so, or who we're married to, or, who we're connected with. And we're actually much more than that. I just did a reading this weekend for a young client. She was originally from Tehran, but she now lives in Dallas. And she kept asking me, like, okay, I work a job, I pay my bills, I pay my taxes. Is this all there is? And I said, no, girl, no, no, you're just getting started on the journey of self-discovery. And this reading may be the start of it for you, but, but I get those questions a lot from my clients. Like, oh, I'm married to this person, or I have a family. I'm just doing this mundane kind of life. Is that all there is to life? And it's like, no, I mean, we're the masters of our own reality. We can create whatever we want. The universe, there is no limits in the universe. So I think a lot of us are awakening to that. And what an exciting time to be born. It is super exciting to be here during this time. And if there's anything I can do to assist the process for people, I just feel humbled and honored to be able to do that. So thank you for that question. Yeah.
Thank you for the work that you do. And I get a sense that most people, everybody's at a different stage of awakening.
Mm-hmm.
And people who are at the beginning stages or about to enter that process, there's some deep intuitive knowing that there has to be something more than this physical reality, than going to work a 9 to 5, back and forth, same thing, day after day, week after week, year after year. You're born, you go through that, and then you die. Like, on some level, most people intuitively feel that that's not all there is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And thank you for making that distinction between the kind of earthly Akashic records and the galactic Akashic records.
Yeah,
Because
totally.
that was something that I was relatively unfamiliar with. Like I think most people in the space or who are on a spiritual journey have heard about the Akashic records and kind of
Yeah.
understand that concept, but not too many people are speaking about the more broad Akashic records, which is the Galactic Akashic records, and I think it kind of makes sense when you think about it and put it in that context. It's just
Yeah,
a
totally.
bigger. It's the same thing, just expanded out to include
Yeah, it's just
a larger
expanded out
data
to,
set.
yeah, it just includes other star systems, other dimensions, other realities, So, and it also includes the future. I think a lot of people sometimes, when they book a reading with me, they think, oh, this is going to be kind of like a past life regression. It's going to be just Debbie's going to talk about my past lives here, there, wherever. And it's actually a lot more than that. It's kind of similar to a QHHT. So QHHT is quantum healing hypnosis technique, which is a form of hypnotherapy that was developed by Dolores Cannon back in the 70s and 80s. And she's written a lot of books, um, but I think a lot of people think that, oh, it's a past life regression. What's the difference between Akashic reading and a past life regression? Well, a past life regression just looks at maybe one or two prior lifetimes. So you're really honing in on those lifetimes. And don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to minimize past life regressions. I think they're great. They have their purpose. But with the Akashic reading, you're getting like a 360-degree view of your soul's journey. So not only are you looking at the past, but you're also looking at the future, you're looking at the present, you're looking at multi-dimensional realities. Or sometimes, I mean, sometimes that does pop up as for some of my clients. And, because I do have some clients that are parallel souls, so you get this more expansive view. And just like a QHHT, you are connecting with your higher self and your higher guidance during the reading. So you can get answers to your questions that maybe you won't get elsewhere, So it is a very activating and almost, I would say, even life-changing reading for a lot of people. I've had a lot of my clients come back and say, wow, that was life-changing for me. I'm not the same person after that, So that's why I record all the sessions, because so much information comes through. And so I do think each of these modalities have their purpose, So if you decide to do an Akashic reading, the information you'll receive will likely complement, let's say, something that you'll get from an hypnotherapy session or something else. But I do think with the Akashic reading, you do get more detail, at least with my form of readings. I don't know what other Akashic readers are doing out there. I suspect a lot of them still work with the Earth records, but there are more and more of us that are delving into the galactic. And a lot of that is because a lot of us are starseeds. The Earth records, it's just a small blip in our history, So why not look at all of it, So that's what I'm trying to accomplish. But you're right. Yeah, it is very helpful to go into those records.
And one thing about your message and how you talk about the Akashic records and how you access them, I've heard you mention multiple times that this is something that you're doing, but everybody has the ability to do this. And I think that's super empowering. And I love that because I believe that as well, that we all have the ability to, we all have extrasensory perceptions. We all have the ability to access vast amounts of non-local information. It's just a skill and something that we can all learn, or maybe remember is a better way to put it, because I think on some level we all know how to do it. And it's just unprogramming ourselves from everything
Matrix.
that we've been from the matrix and allowing that stuff to come in.
Yeah, exactly.
Plato had a word for it, and he called it anamnesis, which is the process of unforgetting, which it's not exactly remembering, you're unforgetting. So it implies that you're just remembering something that you, at some level,
Always
or it's,
knew. You
yeah,
always
at
knew.
some point in
Yeah.
your soul's journey that you already always knew. And I just love that framing of it. And I
That's
think,
similar to what I tell my
yeah,
clients is that, you're on this self-discovery journey. You've always known this. It's just that you've forgotten that you've known it. So I love that term, um, unremember, or what was the term you used? Unremembering,
the process of
uh,
unremembering is the,
unremembering. Yeah. Yeah. I love that.
or unforgetting.
Unforgetting. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
it. Unforgetting. So, so in response to that, I would say I totally agree with Plato. We do go through this veil of forgetfulness. So a lot of us, when we come here to Earth, because there's so much programming here, there's so much deception, there's so much conforming to, whatever, our societal, demands are, here on this planet. But as far as all of us having abilities, I've always believed that. Um, I think all of us have psychic abilities, not just certain people. I think certain people are forerunners. They're kind of paving the way for everybody else. But all of us have those abilities, and anybody can learn to read the Akashic records. I've always said that. I do teach a course in it, which we'll get into later. But excuse me, all of us can access the galactic records, and we're not limited to just planet Earth. So it's just a matter of reawakening those abilities, and there's various ways you can do it. I mean, just a reawakening your clear senses, particularly your third eye, but all of us have that capacity to to regain those skills. And you're right, we've always had it. We as omnipresent beings, we've always had these abilities. But what's nice about our experience here on Earth is that even though we may have forgotten or we may have been felt disconnected or separated, we can always reconnect ourselves to the higher quantum field. So thank you for that.
Yeah, and I know this hasn't always been a part of your human experience. You mentioned you started doing the Akashic Records readings back in 2014. So
Hmm.
you've done a lot of readings and you've worked with many people over the last
Right.
decade plus. But I was wondering if you could just give us a little bit about your backstory. I know there's potentially a lot there, but I think it's helpful and can help give people context and really help give people who are maybe in the beginning stages of their awakening journey some insights about maybe the things that they're going through themselves to
Oh yeah,
help be
totally.
like, okay, she went through that, that's similar to what I'm going through. I'm not crazy, there's nothing wrong with me, I'm just learning something new, or just at a point
I'm
in
just
this
going through the
process.
awakening process. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. I'll give you guys the abridged version. If people want to hear my whole story, I've done multiple interviews where I've talked about it, but so you can just do a search on YouTube or Gaia if you're a Gaia subscriber. But I was just an ordinary unawakened person. My husband had always had an interest in the paranormal, and I think just by reading some of the things he was reading about, it expanded my consciousness somewhat. But at the time, I was very much a skeptic. I didn't believe in aliens. I didn't believe in UFOs. I thought there was some sort of, reasonable explanation for, these phenomena that people are talking about. And, just to give you some insight into my background, I had a very, I would say, ordinary background in that I was raised Roman Catholic. I come from a military family, so we were traveling all the time. I mean, it was just endless. And then I also joined the military. I was active duty Navy for 6 years. I worked in preventive medicine, which is an offshoot of being a hospital corpsman, which is like a medic. And then from there, I worked in the environmental field for a lot of years, So I was very much in the science world. That was like, and that's my degree is in science. I was very much in the science world. But back in 2012, I had a life changing experience. So I had an extraterrestrial abduction experience, if you want to call it that. I don't really consider it an abduction, but where I was on board a starship, and it was it was not a dream. I mean, it was just incredible. I was interacting with beings from Arcturus, beings from other star systems on board this magnificent starship that was nothing like what you would see on, sci-fi movies or sci-fi shows. So yeah, it's just been so that was life changing. So I was not the same person. So that happened like in one night, and I was not the same person after that. So I knew something incredible had happened to me, and obviously my husband was the first person I told, and he thought I was having some sort of really crazy dream, and I said, "No, this was way too detailed to be a dream." It was and like I said, if people want to hear the whole story, they can, look up some other podcasts I've done, but what happened after that was I was starting to have a multitude of multidimensional experiences where I think just pretty much what you mentioned about ESP, like my extrasensory perception completely expanded. And I was starting to see auras around things and people. I was starting to see UFOs in the sky all the time. I was even having telepathic communication with some of these UFOs, which was really crazy. I would go into, say, like a Starbucks and be able to hear everybody's thoughts. That was a really crazy experience. And multi-dimensional travels. Just really weird paranormal type experiences. There was even a time when I had two, not just one, but two extraterrestrial contact experiences. So one in May of 2012, the other one in December 2012. And after both of those experiences, I would have unmarked black SUVs following me. One time there was three black helicopters hovering over my backyard. That was freaky. So I think the government knows when people are having contact. And that's a whole other conversation, but I was having all these experiences, and I noticed that I was downloading massive amounts of information on star systems. I've never taken astronomy classes in my life, and I've never taken an astrology class, so I didn't know where all this information was coming from. All this galactic history, downloads about galactic wars, about things that were going on. And so I thought I was going crazy, like just like a lot of people when they're going through the awakening process, because things are so different, and you're different and you don't have an explanation for it, or at least a logical explanation. So I thought I was going crazy. I didn't talk about my experiences for about 2 or 3 years after I had my experiences because I didn't want people to think I was belonged in the loony bin, first of all. Um, I started, I would say, publicly sharing my experiences in the Denver area after I was asked by a colleague. She wanted to put together this ET contact panel for her INs uh, group, and so I reluctantly agreed to be part of the panel. And then everybody just loved my story. Everybody was like, "Oh, Debbie, we got to get you presenting at for Boulder EXO at the University of Colorado. You got to do a presentation here. You got to do this." And so I kind of just fell into this. And at the time, I still wasn't doing Akashic readings. I was just taking a multitude of different spiritual classes. But in 2014, I started taking some Reiki courses. And this was just locally here in my hometown of Castle Rock. And I was telling my Reiki teacher about some of my downloads, and she said, "I think you're getting those from the Akashic Records." And I said, "Really?" what is the Akashic Records? And so she explained it to me, and she says, I teach classes on how to read the records. And I said, oh, I got to take these classes. So I took her classes. There was like 3 levels, kind of like similar to QHHT. And then even after the first level, I just realized, you know what, I got a knack for this. I can just do this as a little side gig. 'Cause I was still working my 3D job. So I worked for the county health department for a lot of years, and I retired in 2019. But I just started off doing it as a hobby. I was just like, I'm good at this. People seem to like my readings, make a little extra money here and there. Then it just turned into this thing. I just started doing readings all throughout the Front Range of Colorado. Then I was doing readings remotely for people all over the world. And then in 2020, I was invited to be a guest on the Beyond Belief show on Gaia TV. And I think that's when a lot of people started finding out about me. Even before, I was still getting to be fairly well known, especially in Colorado, but that was when, things went international, like all of a sudden. It's like once you're on Gaia, you get sucked into the Gaia sphere, if you want to call it, or the Gaia circle, and then they'll invite you back for other shows, and then more people see you out there. And now more or less I'm considered a public figure, so I still do personal readings, but it's very limited because I can't take on any more new clients because my wait list is crazy. It's like over 3,000 people on my wait list. So I just can't. I mean, I'll be doing readings until probably 2035 or something. I don't know, but I just can't take on any new names or any new people. It just kind of grew into something even beyond what I even ever imagined. So I feel like my story is like a lot of people's story. Like we all kind of start off with this experience. It might be different for different people, some sort of awakening experience, and then we go through this journey of self discovery, and then we step into our true mission. In my case, I worked for the health department in Colorado Springs for a lot of years, and I retired 2 years early. I was able to do that because I purchased time. I used my Akashic earnings to purchase time so I could buy my freedom, so to speak. And then after that, after I devoted myself to my mission full time, it seems like it's been the sky's the limit. It's just I get wonderful opportunities, and we can talk about some things that are coming up later in the show. But I'm always amazed at the opportunities that come my way now. So, but thank you for allowing me to share my story. I do believe it's everybody's story.
And thank you for sharing your story and being so willing to talk about something that happened to you that I believe that has happened to many people, yet
Yeah.
because of social stigmas or conflicting belief systems or fear of judgment, a lot of people just often don't share those kind of stories about your abduction experience. And that's one of the reasons I started this channel, was to normalize these kind of conversations, because your awakening experience was different than mine, but similar in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
I
yeah, it's
started
similar to a
having,
lot of people's. Yeah,
yeah, I
yeah. I
started
mean,
having spontaneous remembrances of past lives. And like you, I was like, am I going crazy? Is there something wrong with me? It became, even from a young age, it was clear to me that my experience was not the same as the people around me. Like people around me were experiencing the world differently than I was. And
yeah, that's how I felt too.
I
Yeah.
didn't understand what was going on, and I didn't have the intellectual framework to be able to name it, like, oh, this is what's happening. This is what I'm experiencing compared to this is what they're experiencing.
Yeah.
And I personally also had an experience where I was taken onto a ship when I was 4 years old. And I don't have any conscious memory of it. This was shown to me when I was working with psychedelics, but it was like crystal clear, and I was shown this experience that I'd had. And it's like, and so many things made sense. Like, and there's kind of and I've shared it publicly, but it's not something that comes up very often, but
Mm.
it was abundantly clear to me that I needed to have that experience. And actually that experience, what just briefly what happened when I was on the ship was the extraterrestrials, they put a basically a little patch over my third eye
Mm.
so that I wouldn't be so sensitive, so that I could
Mm.
function more
On Earth.
normally.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes,
Hmm.
because I'm just naturally a very sensitive person. And at that point in my life, this was 2021, when saw this and was given this information, I just had a pretty intense concussion.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And, and part of the reason that I had that concussion was so that so that the circuitry in my brain could be changed such that that patch could be removed naturally. It just kind of dissolved, so that
Yeah.
my senses could be heightened again. So
Resensitized. Yeah, totally.
yes, yeah, and like that happened at a time in my life where I was able to be able to manage the amount of information that's coming in. And so yeah, thank you for sharing your story. And again, I think, beyond that, I've had multiple experiences,
Hmm.
not physical experiences of being on crafts, but out of body experiences where
Yeah.
I've interacted with many different non-human intelligences. And
Hmm.
it's abundantly clear to me that there's, at this point in time, we are going through an awakening, and more people are becoming aware of this broader family that we're a part of. And
Yeah, totally.
these non-human intelligence, extraterrestrials, aliens, whatever you want to call them,
Yeah.
they're they're making themselves more known in a physical sense by being
Right.
more present in the skies. And
Hmm.
there's more and more physical sightings. And as people become aware that our consciousness is not necessarily locked into our bodies, and that through different practices we can reach out and explore the different spaces of consciousness, that you start to interact with them there as well. So
Yeah. Yeah,
uh,
totally.
I, I'm curious as to your thoughts around, you can call it disclosure, but like what we're experiencing at this point in our awakening as humanity, and how that's
Mhm.
manifesting in this kind of influx or increase of contact experiences for people.
A lot of my clients actually come to me because they've had these kinds of experiences, but they have no explanation for it. Either they can't remember everything, or they can't, or they're having a hard time figuring out what was the purpose of their abduction experience. And it's usually does happen in childhood. I guess in my case, mine didn't happen until adulthood. Like I was already about to turn 50 when, my experience happened. But and who knows, maybe I did have experiences in childhood as well, because I have a lot of missing time from my childhood where I don't remember. And I hear that a lot from my clients too. Like a lot of them don't really remember certain parts of their childhood, and it kind of makes you wonder, like, what was going on during that time, where I just blanked out, all this stuff, But
Where's
I want to
third and
share,
fourth grade?
yeah, like what happened? Yeah, what happened to my entire the years between 8 and 10? So what happened then? But I want to share a little story about just what happened, with just some physical response after my abduction experience, and then I'll get into answering your question. But what you said about the concussion really made sense for me, because before I had my alien contact experiences, I used to get massive migraines. Like almost every month, I would have like a massive migraine, to the point where sometimes I would have to be admitted to the ER because it was just so bad. After I had my extraterrestrial contact experiences, I have not had a migraine since. It's been what, 12 years since, maybe 13 years since I've had those experiences. Have not had a migraine since then. I've had,
Well,
minor headaches here and there, but no migraines. So something happened on board the ship. Like I don't know, maybe they removed the patch or something. Maybe there was a patch like yours and they removed it, and I didn't have the migraines anymore. But I hear that a lot from my clients too, where they have this experience and there's some sort of physical result, like either something gets resolved or something gets added, I guess, to their physicality. And I do believe that we're being upgraded continuously. Getting to the broader aspect of your question, because you were asking what this means for humanity, we are being prepared right now for actual contact. So I do believe, and I've seen this for a while in the records, and I know other, spiritual leaders have also talked about this, where a lot of people are saying between, maybe early next decade or later in this decade that we're going to have actual alien contact, where we are actually going to be contacted by beings, and the government is not going to be able to hide it. That everybody's going to know about it. The dates that I got was between 2028 and 2032. That was the frame, or the range that I got. But some people say it'll be as early as 2027. Some people are saying it might not be until later the next decade. But somewhere in that time period, we are going to be contacted. And I do believe that a lot of us are going through these experiences in order to, I guess, prepare ourselves for the contact so it doesn't freak us out. Otherwise, I think people would just freak out. But now this is becoming more mainstream. A lot of us, even in some of the Discovery Channel or History Channel, they're talking more and more about extraterrestrial contact and extraterrestrial beings, and that, we're not alone in this universe. We never have been. These are beings that they're actually part of our family. We have their genetics, and we're reconnecting with galactic family. So I do believe that we're being upgraded and contacted in order to prepare ourselves for this contact experience that's going to happen soon. And when this happens, there's Earth is not going to go back. I mean, there is no way, like if you have some alien beings that are visiting your planet, there is no way that we're not going to be changed after that experience, just like you and I were changed, after our contact experiences. And so we're going to see the advent of new technologies, of Earth becoming part of the greater galactic federation. And, we're going to be propelled forward into this new age. There is no going back under the rock and, sticking our heads back in the sand after that, So, and I do believe, okay, this is just my opinion, and, I don't know if I'm correct or not, but I do believe that we'll probably most likely be first contacted by more the humanoid looking beings. So it would likely be Alpha Centaurians, because they're the system that's closest to Earth. Alpha Centauri is actually 3.7 light years from Earth. So I don't think we're quite ready for Pleiadians and Sirians yet. I mean, that's like a whole other level, but more than likely it'll be them, either them or Venusians. So Venusians are also extraterrestrial beings that they live within our solar system, but they live in an alternate dimension. So they don't physically live on Venus, but maybe I think at one time they did when Venus was more inhabitable. But we'll likely be contacted by these beings because they'll be the most human looking. I've encountered Pleiadians. Pleiadians will blow your mind. I mean, they do look human, but they're like extra human or uber humans. I mean, they're amazing looking beings. I mean, I think that would freak a lot of people out, So whereas an Alpha Centaurian, if you were to see an Alpha Centaurian walking down the street and here on Earth, you probably would think, well, they're a little taller than normal, but they look like us, they look like us, so that's just my, I guess, interpretation of what's likely going to happen. But who knows? At any rate, it'll be, some extraterrestrial group that we'll be connecting with, and at that point, we're just going to be thrust into the new age. I mean, there's no going back. And I'm here, I'm all here for it. I am just ready for this to happen. So tired of all the deception and all the lies and the fake news and everything that is going on, right now on the planet. So, and I think a lot of us are.
I'm right there with you. And so much of what you said deeply resonated with me.
Mhm.
As a result of the experience that I had where the
Mhm.
patch dissolved and
Mhm.
my senses became more heightened, I developed a direct telepathic
Mhm.
connection with our star family, with a group of
Yeah, yeah.
beings who, on a soul level, I'm very close to.
Mhm.
And leading up to this interview, I've been kind of in that space a little bit more, and
Mhm.
it's like I know the connection is there, but
Yeah.
I just don't have a good reason to interact with them. Like there's like if I don't have a reason to call somebody up, I'm probably not going to. And I believe I'm here for a reason because I need to learn my lessons. I'm not gonna be like, hey, can you help me with this? Can you help me with that? What is this? What is
Yeah, yeah,
that?
gotcha. Yeah.
So, and I trust that that connection was established for a reason, and that when it's appropriate, I will receive more information. And yesterday, I went for a walk, and I kind of reached out via that line of
Mhm.
communication, and they just said, "Yeah, not yet, not
Not
yet."
yet. Yeah,
Yeah,
gotcha.
it's just like it's coming. It's got
Yeah.
we'll give you a call when things are cooking and when it's time
Yeah,
to
gotcha.
to
Yeah.
really start making moves. And when the time is right, we'll pick up the phone and give you a call.
No, that's nice. So they're giving you some reassurance that, hey, we're still connected, but it's all in divine timing.
Yeah,
And I
and
think that was kind of how it unfolded for me too. Because I remember after my experiences, I asked my guides, how do I connect with you? And they kept saying meditation, meditation. I was just like, oh, I hate meditation. I'm not an avid meditator, to say the least. And so, uh, and so my guides had me go through this whole crazy experience where, and I drugged my husband along with me on this one. We went to Crestone, Colorado, which is kind of like the Sedona of Colorado, but it's in the midst of the San Luis Mountains. It's kind of like South Central Colorado, but there's nothing there. I mean, it's not like Sedona where Sedona is like this gleaming, glamorous, spiritual town. This place is like lucky. I don't even think they have a gas station. I mean, it's just like a little podunk little town. But because of the vortexes there, they have really intense for they have quite a few spiritual centers. So they have like a Zen Buddhist center, several ashrams, a monastery there. So my husband and I chose the Zen Buddhist center to stay at, and we learned to meditate. So we spent a few days with the Zen Buddhist monks. We ate meals with them. We did meditation with them, and we learned how to meditate. So now I would say I'm a regular meditator, but also I think with a connection with guides, I think as you're stepping more and more into your mission, it just becomes seamless. So it's not like you even have to think like, oh yeah, let me connect with my guides. I'm like almost in constant communication with my guides. It's almost like, and they even give me guidance on like even like some mundane things like, hey Debbie, it's time to buy a house. I was like, what? That happened to me a few years ago where I was just like, I got this clear message that we're supposed to buy this new house, and I was just like, what? And then my husband, I think he's open-minded enough to kind of go with things when I say my guides told me I have to do this. He knows now that just to go along with it because it's usually going to lead to something good. So we ended up buying a new house in 2021, but otherwise, I kind of feel like they're there when they need to be there, but it's not like constant, like you were saying. It's kind of like you're like, yeah, I think with the analogy you gave about the call, calling like calling like a family member. You're not going to call your family member 24/7. I mean, that's ridiculous. But if you need to call them, they're always going to be there. And that's how I feel about my guides and my star family as well.
and my sense is that there are more and more people who are kind of under the radar, who are starting to
Mhm.
turn on and develop these
Oh yeah, no.
contacts. And that
Yeah, totally.
when the time is right, when the big contact happens, the big overt
Yeah.
contact happens, there's going to be a message sent out. It's like, all right, let the people around you know that things are going to be okay. And like we're going to be responsible for helping our communities and our families and the people around us
Oh, yeah.
be grounded
Yeah.
through
Not to
that
freak out
experience.
over it. Yeah,
Yeah, like
totally. Yeah.
but then I think that's going to be the time when everybody, where there's a mass sharing of
Yeah.
our collective experience. The people who are just kind of waiting for the right
The
moment
big
or waiting
event.
until we get the signal and then be like, okay, wait. So I've been having these experiences for years, and it's okay. We're all going to be okay. This is our family. Just chill. Like this is just
Yeah,
part of
it's and
of
I
our
think a
journey.
lot of us are here to normalize the experience, so it's like, hey, I had contact with aliens for years and I'm still okay, I'm more than okay. I'm doing really great now, so um it does have a way of changing your life. Like my life is significantly better after my experiences than they were before my experiences. Before my experiences, I suffered from a lot of depression and anxiety. I didn't know, you know, why things happened the way they did, and now looking back on it, it's like, oh, now I know why I had to go through those experiences to lead me up to my contact, and then what I'm doing now, why I am doing what I'm doing now. So I do think a lot of us are here to normalize it and hey, these are our family members. These are not scary beings that are going to take over or try to obliterate our planet or get us go into war or anything like that. Now there are some of those negative beings out there as well. There are negative extraterrestrials. I think it'll be, I would say, you're shortchanging yourself if you're thinking like, oh yeah, all of them are good. There are negative beings out there, but we're also being heavily protected on this planet. So people don't have anything to worry about, even though things look crazy in the our 3D world right now. But we're just going through that transition phase for sure.
To switch gears just a little bit,
Hmm.
I'm curious, and you mentioned before we got on about doing a brief reading and maybe doing a little demonstration showing people how what a reading with you might look like and what kind of information is accessible through the Galactic Akashic Records.
Yeah,
So like
gotcha.
if you're still open to it, I'd be really interested
Okay.
to learn a little bit more.
Okay, yeah, great. Yeah, so I just need your full name and your birth date, and I'll write that down so um, we can. And I'll just get my Akashic book here, so there you go. So I'll get that ready. So what's your full name? It's Ian, and what's the last name again?
Ian Thomas Vogel,
Thomas. And what's your birth date?
5/15/85.
5. Okay. I already picked up who you're connected with, but but I have to have the birth date to access your records. So we're just going to go through the pathway prayer process. So usually I start off just doing a divine heart triangle. So I'm connecting my heart chakra to yours, and then we connect the source, hence the triangle. And then I always do a little space clearing, and then I do the pathway prayer. I do use Dr. Linda House prayer process because it works. I mean, she does have some Christian language in there, but it's worked great for a lot, my thousands and thousands of clients. And then I'll say the records are now open. And then because we're limited on time, I might be able to do like 10 minutes at the max. But we'll get into some information for you. So let me start off. Only the highest vibrations of love and light can be in the space, and all objects in this space for the highest good of Ian Thomas Vogel and myself. For this reading today, all other energies must leave now. I call in the highest level of the divine that knows that love is the power and the truth from which we read, the highest level guides and angels of Ian Thomas Vogel and myself to help us with this reading. Archangel Michael, hold this space for us. And so it is. And so we do acknowledge the forces of light, asking for guidance, direction, and courage to know the truth, as it is revealed for our highest good and the highest good of everyone connected to us. O Holy Spirit of God, help me to know Ian Thomas Vogel in the light of the Akashic Records, to see Ian Thomas Vogel through the eyes of the Lords of the Records, and enable me to share the wisdom and compassion that the masters, teachers, and loved ones have for Ian Thomas Vogel. Okay, the records are now open. So as we were talking, I do read frequency quite a bit. So a lot of times I just go into the records to confirm what I'm already picking up. But I did pick up Lyra Pleiades with you. I think that's part of your soul family. You might have had other incarnations and other systems beyond that, but even your birth date, you were born in May 15th, you said, like 515. So you're a sun sign Taurus. Pleiades is in the Taurus constellation. So I would say you have predominantly humanoid genetics. So I don't know if that resonates or not, but that's what I'm picking up with you. It's interesting that you're in Minnesota because your first incarnations were in Lyra, but it was in a very small little planet called Bila. And Bila was an agricultural planet. And I know you live on a farm. So Bila, it had a lot of little streams and rivers and lakes, so might look very similar to Minnesota. Maybe there's a reason why you live in Minnesota because it reminds you of Bila, but isn't Minnesota the state with a thousand lakes, or I don't know, 1,001
Like
lakes? Yeah,
10,000, I think. Yeah.
10,000. Yeah, okay. So I way underestimated that amount. So you guys obviously you have a lot of leaks. That's probably why you chose to live in Minnesota, because it does remind you of the original planet when you were first having physical incarnations. And it's interesting that you live on a farm and you're talking about the harvest, and that you and your dad are preparing for the next harvest, because that was basically what they did in Bila. Bila people were not very technical. They were very agricultural. A lot of them would transport their crops on boats, so they would transport their boats from one village to another. And they lived very peaceful, beautiful lives until the Lyran Wars. So the Lyran Wars happened. Poor Bila was defenseless. They didn't have any starships. They didn't have any weaponry to speak of. So they were like sitting ducks for the Draconians. Fortunately, there were some I think ships from Avalon and even Vega that was able to evacuate some of these Bila folks. And I do think that you were one of the people that was lucky enough to be evacuated during that time. I think you were probably most likely on one of the Avalon ships, which Avalon is another planet in the Lyra system. So you were rescued along with your family and transported to the Pleiades. The system that I see that you're most connected with in the Pleiades is Taygeta. And I think you learned a very big lesson during this time, that you never wanted to be in a situation where you felt helpless, where you felt like you couldn't do anything, where you felt like I have no control over what's going on. That's that Taurus personality coming out. I think you have this, and I'm not saying this in a very kind way, but you have a control program where you like to feel like, okay, I have some control over things. You hate to feel out of control. You hate that feeling of, and you're probably a planner. That's what I'm guessing, that you're not a go with the flow kind of person. Like some of my Cancerians and Pisces people are like that, but you're more like me. I'm a planner too. I don't like to feel like I don't have a handle over things. And I think it's because of your Lyran experiences where you just felt like, God, I can't do anything. I don't know what to do. So because of that, when you were settling in Taygeta, And I would say you're very Pleiadian. Your personality, even, your physical features is very Pleiadian. And I would say stereotypical Pleiadian to a certain extent. But what I'm getting with you is that you thrust yourself into a whole new career field. So you were like done with agriculture. You wanted to become part of the mix of what was going on with the Pleiades. So you went through Starfleet Academy. You learned all these technical skills. I think that's why you're so good with technology. Like it comes real easily to you. And you were mostly involved with communications with the Galactic Federation. So you became part of the Pleiadian Starfleet. I'm seeing lifetimes where you were assigned to starships and you did different missions all throughout the galaxy, and also was involved with the Orion mission, which is what led you to do this mission here on Earth. And I think for the most part you've always been of the light. I don't get like a whole lot of struggles with integrating with the dark, but I get the sense that you're a very well balanced soul, that you're very well integrated, but you had lifetimes, and I don't know if you have like a lot of animals on your farm. I'm also getting that you like to work with animals, like, and that is such a Taigetan thing. I don't know what it is about Taigetans and animals, but all of them have like they're all surrounded with animals all the time. So I don't know if you have cows or sheep or whatever it is you have on your farm, but that also came from Taigeta because they just loved working with animals, and that was part of their culture was, to be really well integrated with animals. In a lot of ways, the Pleiades, particularly the planet Era, which is one of the planets that revolved around Taigeta, Era was kind of a lot like Earth. So I think in a way, when you incarnated in this particular life, you're trying to recreate an environment that reminded you of first little Bila, and then also Taigeta. So your mission is to be a communicator. You're here to share information. You're here to expand consciousness. You're here to represent the new divine masculine, that it's okay to be sensitive. It's okay to be connected to things, but still be masculine, still be a protector. And I do think your Taurus personality also encapsulates all of that. I am going to close the records because we are running out of time, but I could go way, way deep into a lot more, but I hope
No,
that gives you a little glimpse at least. I don't know.
that was awesome. Thank you very much. That was
Oh,
really cool.
yeah. Yeah. So I'm going to do a little closing prayer. And there's probably more star systems you're connected with, but those are the ones I'm going to touch upon just because we're so limited on time. But I would like to thank the masters, teachers, and loved ones for their love and compassion. I would like to thank the lords of the records for their point of view. And I would like to thank the Holy Spirit of light for all knowledge and healing. The records are now closed. Amen. The records are now closed. Amen. The records are now closed. Amen. Your energy goes with you, and my energy stays with me. So, what did you think of that? Did that resonate or?
Yeah, yeah, very much so. Like the first
Yeah.
thing I do when I get up in the morning is go out and greet my. I open up the gate for the chickens to come outside, and then I go greet our cattle and go give them their breakfast and spend
Mhm.
time with them. That's how I start my day every day
Yeah.
is with
Yeah.
the animals. So it's
Yeah.
interesting that you picked up on that.
Yeah, no, it's a Taigetan thing, I think, because almost all of the Taigetans I do readings for, they're just like, oh, I love animals so much, I got to be around them, I got to have like a bunch of them around me. It's not just like one or two, pets. It's like the whole menagerie, So I'm glad you resonate with that. No, it was fun. It was fun looking at your history. So thank you for that opportunity.
Well, thank you so much for doing that brief reading and for letting showing everybody a little taste of what you
Mhm.
do and what's available, and again tying it back into where we started, that the fact that anybody can do these sorts
Anybody
of
can do
readings.
this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's incredible.
So
And
I've taught hundreds of people already how to do their own Akashic readings, and um, so With this last few minutes, can I kind of do a plug for
Oh,
my upcoming course? Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely. That's
Yeah.
exactly where I was
Yeah,
where I
no,
was headed
guys.
with
Okay,
this.
so we're on the same wavelength. Okay, cool. So I have a few events coming up. If you guys just want your own little mini reading, you want to, maybe get some insights from the Akashic Records and also with astrology. I'm co-hosting a webinar on September 13th. It's going to be on Zoom. I just got the link for it. So it's on my Instagram. So if you go on Debbie Solaris, you'll find it. Just go in my bio. But I do plan to promote it more. So if you want your own little mini reading, it's not free, but we're not charging a whole lot. Just go ahead and, register for that webinar. It's on I think it's at 4 p.m. Mountain, probably 5 p.m. your time. And it's on September 13th, which is a Saturday. So if
And
you want to have a little,
I'll put all your
yeah,
links in the show notes
yeah,
so they'll be
okay,
available
cool.
for everyone.
Yeah. So if you go either on my website or if you go on Debbie on my Instagram, and I'll post it on Facebook too. Like I said, I just got that link just as of like 30 minutes before you and I met. So we're going to do that. And if you're interested in learning how to read the records like how I read them, my method of doing it, we are going to start a Galactic Akashic reading course on September 8th. It is a 6-week long course. You're going to get a deep dive into galactic history. You're going to learn how to read the records. You're going to learn all kinds of stuff in those 6 weeks. And then you're also going to get certified. So we send a certification, a certificate of certification for folks. So that is also on my website. You should be able to access that on the main page of my website. I am going to be doing if you like cruises, I am doing a Mystery School at Sea cruise next year in March from the 20th to the 30th. It's to the Greek islands and Turkey. So if you want to dive deep and there's going to be at least 20 other speakers, and it's going to be 10 days in the Mediterranean, having this wonderful, life changing experience with all of us other galactic people on the cruise. That is also on my website. That's on the events page of my website. And I've been advertising it here and there too. But we have some really cool events coming up. So, if these are things that sound interesting, and there's many more events that I don't even have the time to get into. I'm always doing things left and right. It's just like I do online stuff. I do, in-person stuff. I mean, I'm just kind of all over the place. I'm even doing Super Soldier conference in Orlando in October. I mean, it's just like I can't even keep up with myself with everything that's going on. But if you go on my website, you'll get all the information on everything I mentioned. So that's what's going on with me. Thank you. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
you're welcome. And
yeah,
again, all of those links will be in the show notes below, really easy to access. Debbie's got so much awesome content. Her YouTube channel has a lot of really great stuff on it. She's done some really good interviews with other people where she goes into even more deeply into other topics and into her story, which is fascinating. So I highly recommend everybody to go and interact with more of Debbie's content because it's really great. Wherever you find her, it's always something that's
yeah.
awesome.
Always something different. Yeah, that's for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, and I'm pretty amazed by the variety of stuff you put out there and the quality
Yeah.
of it. So,
No, thank
Debbie,
you.
thank
Thank
you
you.
so much
Yeah.
for coming on and spending the
Thank
time
you
and
for having me.
doing that brief reading. All of Debbie's links will be below, and yeah, check out more of her work.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's been great to connect with you, Ian, and we're going to do a live together soon. So I think we're doing a live I think in Friday, or I don't know, I don't remember which date it was, but we keep changing the dates. So I'm just like, I don't know, but we're doing an Instagram live soon with Ashley Pfeiffer, and Ian and myself. So we all have very different modalities. So it'll be interesting to combine the three and see, what kind of conversations we get into. So keep an eye out on that with I guess on Ian's channel. He'll probably announce that soon.
Yeah,
But there'll be more good stuff to come. Thank you again, Ian. This has been great. I really appreciate your time.
Likewise. Thank you, Debbie, and
All right.
everyone. Take care and be well.
All right. Take care. Bye bye, everybody.